Mr. Birdie, members of the board, I do have several items for your consideration this evening under other items for board action, letter D. Number 1, recommend approval of the following resolution. Resolution for the continued operation of Fairfield City Schools during the 2020-2021 school year. Whereas this board believes the district school buildings can continue to be operated with students and staff present with appropriate safety precautions taken as recommended by the State of Ohio and Butler County Health Department. And whereas this board believes that the district students and parents, guardians should continue to be provided with an alternative virtual learning option in lieu of in-person attendance at school buildings. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Fairfield City School District as follows. Section 1. All district schools will be open for student and staff attendance as provided in Section 2 hereof on and after October 26, 2020, subject to the requirement that applicable guidelines of the State of Ohio and Butler County Health Department are to be followed to the extent practicable. Section 2, the board hereby authorizes and adopts the face-to-face learning model as defined by the Fairfield City Schools Instructional Models Plan attached hereto as Exhibit A. Section 3, the board also hereby authorizes and approves the continuation of an alternative virtual learning option in lieu of the face-to-face model described in Section 2 above for those parents and guardians and/or students who do not wish to attend school buildings in person. This option will be developed and implemented by the superintendent and curriculum department. The parents, guardians, or the student will select this option depending upon the age and/or legal status of the student. Section 4, the superintendent is hereby directed to implement the programs identified in Sections 2 and 3 above and to establish and provide procedures, guidelines, and regulations for the implementation of said programs as necessary or appropriate. Section 5, the provisions of this resolution shall remain subject to future modification or revocation by further action of this board. Number 2, recommend approval of grades 6 through 8 technology fee for the 2020-2021 school year. And number 3, recommend approval of locally created graduation seals. That concludes the items that I have for your consideration this evening under other items for board action.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. At this time, I will accept any motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Heard Mr. Begley and Mrs. Shorter. Comments from the board? Mrs. Shorter, any other comments?
I just want the public to know that we've been spending money to prepare our buildings. We have invested in upgrades to the HVAC system. We've got sanitation going well. We have sanitation stations. We've done quite a bit to make the environment safe as we can make it. And at this point, we're just going to have to learn to live in a different environment. And I think, you know, the best that we can do is all that we can do. There are no guarantees. You know, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. And I know I'm just going to stay prayerful, and we have flexibility. You know, regardless of what we do, we do have flexibility, but we've got to move forward.
Thank you. Mrs. Gundrum, any comments?
Yes, thank you. I never thought there would be this many extremely difficult decisions in one school year, or even in a matter of just a few months. We're in a tough spot. I've been down on a rabbit hole of data the last week or so. At least the last 5 days or so. I've read countless emails, heard from parents, heard from staff members and teachers, and unfortunately we can't make everybody happy like we've done before. To some people that I've heard from, it's easier to go back to 5 days a week. To people it's easier to stay where we are now. To some people, the right thing to do is to stay where we are no matter how many students unfortunately fall behind. And to some people, the right thing to do is to go back 5 days a week no matter how many people get sick. So, you know, we're in a tough spot, and to echo what Mrs. Shorter said, we've all really thought this through. I know we have hundreds of emails, people in support of coming back 5 days, against going back 5 days. I think we've all been through all of them. I know I've read each one of them, been able to respond to every single one, but this was not a decision that came easy. And I just want to stress that I don't think it's a decision that came easy to any of us.
Thank you, Mrs. Gundrum. Mr. Begley?
Yeah, so just over 2 months ago, we had to make a tough decision, as the other board members have alluded to, and we went into the hybrid model based on the data we had at the time. And it has served us well, but there are issues with it. It's been tough on our families, right? We heard that at the time, and it's proven out. It's created hardships for many of the families in the districts, and it still has our students in a virtual environment 60% of the time. So we're here tonight to talk about alternatives. And I appreciate the presentation that Mr. Smith and his staff gave. And as Mrs. Gundrum alluded to, we have received many emails, and I've read them all as well. And I very much appreciate Mr. Birding and Mr. Smith for responding to all those, so that those stakeholders would know that we heard what they said, that we absolutely prayerfully considered it. But we have to make a choice. And there aren't many rules with COVID other than you want to make it as safe as you can, and you want to do what's in the best interest of our students. And what I've heard tonight isn't perfect, but it is our new normal. And I think we're in a position to move forward with a 4 or 5 day week schedule. And the one thing I know for certain is that this is in the best interest of our students' future academic success.
Thank you, Mr. Begley. I don't think I could put it any better than that. We've all been pouring over data like crazy. I know Mr. Smith has been in constant communication with the leaders of the other school districts, with Mr. Stiles of Middletown, Mr. Miller of Lakota, Mr. Holbrook of Hamilton, and along with Billy Smith. I mean, that is the Mount Rushmore of the superintendents in Butler County. I mean, they're the 4 big school buildings, right? And so I know they've been in constant communication about what's working, what's not working. You know, I've been able to reach out to colleagues of ours, of the school board, and Ross and Edgewood and Talawanda and Lakota and Hamilton and Northwest Local and Middletown to find out, you know, why does the 5 day work, what doesn't work. Of course, we've received a lot of emails from staff with concerns that they have. And we have staff with a lot of medical issues, and it breaks my heart to hear about the medical issues that our staff has, and will continue to have, whether we are going with hybrid model or remote, or if we're going back to 5 days a week. I know our students are struggling to learn, and it's not because of our staff. Our staff does an amazing job, but they're struggling, and families are suffering. I mean, families are suffering financially. They're suffering emotionally, and I think this is an opportunity to help with that. You know, the mental health of our students is as important as the educational issues that they have. So I think that this would only help them. You know, I intentionally did not read any social media comments once this was released, because none of them were professionals. And maybe some of them were, but I reached out to medical professionals. We had to listen to our health professionals, our colleagues, school officials, and we have to trust them. And I think the reason I could vote for this is because I trust our staff. I trust our teachers to make sure that they're telling the students to wear their masks, to wash their hands, to social distance when possible. We've often put our teachers in situations, and they've always risen to the top. They've always come through and did what was best for kids, and I trust they can do that. And I trust our administration team that they will handle any situation that arises, from HR to transportation to in the classroom to finances to administration. Time and time again, Fairfield has shown that we can handle the situations if we work together. And one thing that bothered me was that our vulnerable students weren't getting their basic needs. We had 62% fewer breakfasts and 57 fewer lunches were being served. So our most needy children were not getting the basic services, and not because we weren't trying, but just because they weren't able to come get it. So that tugged on my heart a bunch. So but one thing that we need is we need the parents to help. We need the parents to make sure that they are helping our teachers maintain a healthy, safe environment in the classroom. If your child is not feeling well, they're showing any kind of symptoms, you must keep them at home in order for us to maintain this face-to-face, 5-day-a-week or 4-day-a-week for high school kids instruction. We need your help. We can't do it alone. So we're going to present this to you. We're going to go back to full-time, but we need you to be very diligent as you have been, making sure their homework is getting done. Be even more diligent in making sure that they are staying safe, that they are keeping themselves in safe situations, that they're not going out and partying and every night's not the 4th of July. So keep them in safe situations so that we can continue to provide a safe learning environment for all of our students, and just as important, provide a safe environment for our staff to work in. So if the parents can help keep our students safe and well before they send them back into our classrooms, so that our teachers can stay safe and well, so that then we can continue to provide the best education that Fairfield can give, because they've proven over time that we do a great job of educating our students when they're in front of our teachers. And so for that very reason, I trust that the parents can do that. And for those reasons, I'm in favor of moving forward. Any other comments or questions we have? Hearing none, Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundram?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes, motion passes.